Hi, my name is Dennis Corcoran. Brian Rolfe had asked me to write about why I write. And so, you lucky devils, you get to actually hear all this view. I'm sharing a screen. Hopefully, it'll show up in the Zoom video. And I may get up and walk around a little bit as I do this, but hopefully, it won't be too disturbing. So, to start off, I have always written, always. I mean, and almost always expressed myself orally. And while I didn't say a word until I was 3, or so I was told, when I started, I never stopped speaking, or more to the point, writing. And in the nexus of those two, writing and speaking, laid the seed of theater, at least in my way of thinking. But that's another story. So why do I write? While this is mere conjecture on my part, it may lay in my love of singing. My dad was an opera singer, not for pay. He was a lawyer and a judge. He never sang a note outside the home, but I grew up with him singing often. I mean, a lot. I sang Gregorian chant myself in grade school and in high school choirs. I sang solo, no less. Oh, Holy Night at midnight mass before a packed house. Okay, the church, St. Roch's at Waterman and Rosedale in 1958. Singing, orally expressing myself, stirred feelings. It aroused emotions. It stimulated thoughts, and in all of that, I found tremendous excitement. Both the art and act of singing, and the thoughts, emotions, feelings, ideas expressed, they drew me in like a moth. So one evening in high school, I was listening to "Freewheelin'" by Bob Dylan. So this is dating myself pretty well. It blew my mind. Here I was, a naive, introverted, quiet, skinny kid, few close friends, and this guy sings about the insanity of war, the evils of racism, the depths of love, all of which were beyond my experience, but all of which I wanted to dive into. I would lay in bed at night listening to that album. Yes, an album, real vinyl, um, with a candle lit, the light off, and it just sent me away. That's the power of the word, words. And yes, my favorite playwright, Samuel Beckett, once said that words were a stain on silence. But the interplay of the two, words and silence, I mean, imagine that. Yeah, imagine. So close your eyes a moment. Seriously, close your eyes and breathe deeply, slowly, relax. Keep your eyes closed and picture in your mind sitting in a dark theater. Not a sound, nothing save a small candle lit on a table, center stage. And into that darkness, that silence, walks a lone figure. Picture the figure: a man, a woman, a boy, a girl. How is he or she dressed? How does she move? Slowly, smoothly, nervously, quickly? You watch and wait, attention riveted on that figure. And then she speaks. Only a word, perhaps two, or a phrase, a sentence. You listen to her voice, the pitch, the intonation, the volume. Feel the pace and rhythm in her words. Keep your eyes closed. Now, imagine you're the playwright. And just as I did, you decide whether it's a man, a woman, a boy, or a girl. You decide where to take me, the audience. You paint the picture I see using all the tricks of the theatrical trade. And now your creation speaks. What does she say? How do her words affect me? That is the art of playwriting, crafting experiences. Not just words, but sights, sounds, and words. And in those words, both what is said and how it is said. Journeys, stories, truths are told. And if you do your job well, your audience, will be transported, changed in some way, large or small, for having seen and heard, for having experienced this truth, your truth, because it was and is crafted by you. Now, open your eyes, shake it off, reflect, look at something inane like the light switch on the wall, or your fingernails, or whatever the case may be. So that's why I write. I speak my truth and those of others, a thing that I call true enough. And to do so in such a way that the audience, walk away from that experience changed, moved, touched, raised up, let down, enlightened, inspired, but not the same person who walked into that theater. That's what I aspire to do, no more and no less. Do I always succeed? Oh, hell no. Do I always try? Oh, hell yes. Speaking only for myself, writing isn't worth the time or trouble if it doesn't bend in that direction. And how can we know if we succeed? Well, partly our inner voice tells us, our built in compass. As we read and reread our words, envision our scenes, do they resonate? Do they strike a chord? But mostly, we can know only when our words are seen and heard by others. You can see it in their eyes, hear it in their voices. Sometimes they'll tell you, but sometimes, yes, they may cry or laugh or linger afterwards. Applause is cheap. I mean, it's expected of all of us, but honest emotional connection, that's another thing. Harder to read, but far more certain a statement of success or, dare I say, failure. And if in that interplay of sound and silence, if in those rhythms a truth comes forth, holds you in its hands, resonates within you, it will walk you home that night, be with you the next day, and perhaps be there for you to call on for the rest of your life. Yes, that's why I write, to speak truths, my own and those of others, and to touch, if possible, to change lives. I never said writing was easy. I always said it was a matter of heart. A matter of heart. That for me is a way of asking myself, what will I write about? What inspires me to write? And as with nearly every aspect of every art, the answer is purely personal, subjective. Here's what inspires me, a few excerpts from a nearly inexhaustible list. Mother Maria Skoptsova, who saved Jewish children from Nazi extermination. Sigrid Olafsdottir, whose story of finding her life's work is mesmerizing. The Hawaiian man who single-handedly is rebuilding one of his people's sacred places. All real people. Real people inspire me. The prisoners of Northern Ireland's Gulag, the woman who sang Silent Night in her punishment cell at Ravensbrück. Isabella, better known as Sojourner Truth, the beautiful young woman who made her way to America from Yucatan to escape physical and sexual abuse. The young hijabi who, when asked if she ever danced to wild, crazy music, said, "Of course, we're girls, we're not dead." Ordinary people who choose to do extraordinary and are unexpected things. They inspire me. An anecdote, an indirect comment about St. Louis Community College in Merrimack. We Black Mirror Theater produced a show in December 2018 titled Of Human Kindness. A reviewer praised it, a birth of a new form of theater of raw idealism. That's heady stuff. The show was 11 short pieces, no breaks, 100 minutes runtime. All 11 pieces were created by Merrimack alums. 7 of the 11 had no words. The result? Seldom a dry eye in the house. People lingered afterwards. Many were touched deeply. Some changed. To quote William Butler Yeats, changed utterly. It was a success. We suspected it would be, but we didn't know until we opened. We suspected because with the show cast, our first rehearsal, as is normal, was a table read. Some of the cast literally wept. All were moved, touched, some stunned to silence. We knew we had powerful medicine in our hands. Three of the pieces were inspired by the homeless, a man in Portland, Oregon, who sat on a bench outside the downtown public library, his grocery cart filled with his life beside him. Another, much the same, who lived under the I-6440 overpass at Vandeventer in St. Louis. Others, indirectly, patrons of St. Patrick's Center in St. Louis. These three pieces framed the show. Only one had words. All told a powerful story, and all were true enough. True enough. Let me explain. 2 years before the show, I spent hours interviewing a neighbor, a psychiatrist, a volunteer therapist with the homeless patrons of St. Patrick's Center. He shared his patrons' insights with me. They were profound. Together, the Portland man, the man under the overpass, the insight of St. Patrick's patrons provided the raw yet real material of these pieces. And in the hands of a deft, artistically gifted director, another Merrimack alum, magic occurred. Inspiration comes from living, from life, one's own and the lives of others. And when the story is crafted with integrity, honoring the subject matter, it is true enough. Accurate in all details for any given incident or character? No. But accurate in the portrayal of a character's truth, the larger truths of lives lived? Yes, absolutely. That's true enough. No one story is complete in the sense of a play, nor need it be. That's the playwright's job, to seek and find truth in another's life and to craft that truth in such a way as to teach, touch, and transport an audience. Thus, for me, just for me, the key ingredient of playwriting is a deep sense of curiosity, open mindedness, a willingness and ability to question, to listen, and to strive for understanding. Given all that, one will acquire with time and effort the building blocks of story, the substance of truths to tell. All that then remains is craft. All art subsumes the level of craft in order to convey meaning and connect. Playwriting's no different, but craft alone won't cut it. Another anecdote. A good friend over several years acquired free, he found them or was gifted of them, thousands of pounds of marble slab, sheets of colored art glass, and board feet of maple bowling alley flooring. Seriously. Is, besides a throwaway collector, a sculptor. He acquired a storehouse of building blocks with which to craft his story, his art, many times over. He was skilled, experienced, but ultimately he didn't make a single piece of art from any of it. He turned instead to clay, to oils, ultimately settling on the repair and restoration of monumental outdoor stone and metal sculpture. Craft, skill at writing or whatnot, alone yields nothing. A storehouse of building materials, details of story alone yield nothing. Even the two combined yield nothing. There remains inspiration. It is only when inspiration is combined with craft, which is applied to the building blocks of lives, does art arise. To craft a play, you must first know what journey to take me on. Then you begin to build the environment most conducive in your mind to have me feel the truth you wish to tell. You begin to draft, to write and rewrite, read, revise, reread, add, cut, edit, tweak, read again, inching your way forward. I do this endlessly. I love the process. I hope you do too. For unless and until you believe you have the very best which you can do to give me, an audience, the gift of that truth, until then, your work isn't done. Let me conclude with the crux of the issue and a final anecdote. It takes a village. The crux? Well, having your play produced, which means having it heard and seen by an audience. At first, and at minimum, share your truth with others via stage readings, formal or informal. What do people say? As, or more importantly, note their body language, their behavior. Do they have them throughout? Do you have them throughout or lose them at places? Did anything resonate? If so, what? And why do you think this was so? Learn from these readings. That is how you will know if your work resonates. If the truth you wish to tell the journey you strove to take me on, in fact, works. Look for expressions of understanding, of emotional reactions. Did your piece connect, touch, transport? Will you see it as much or more in an audience's face than in the words they might offer? And if and when you feel it is good enough, that it is what you intended it to be, good luck. God bless, and that someone will produce it. Understand, producing in its own is its own art with potentially a large price tag. The anecdote, it takes a village. I've alluded to this several times. You are not alone. You alone cannot make good theater. Not that it's impossible, just that it's unlikely, and as much or more, perhaps undesirable. Here's what I mean. Back to Of Human Kindness. I created, in one way or another, all 11 of those pieces. I created, conceptualized, and encoded the 2 silent homeless stories, and the third with dialogue. But it took the director previously referenced to give them life, to add the insights and sounds, the visual, oral, and sensory expressions which she saw in my creations. It took artful lighting design to fully bring out the other pieces, and equally moving sound design, set and costume work to fulfill the stories, and the work of astute technicians running sound and lights and stage management. And yes, all save one of these roles was filled by a Merrimack alum, and people lingered. Some, many wept. Some lives were changed utterly, and it was praised as the emergence of a new form of theater art. It takes a village. Thanks for putting up with this, and good luck on your own playwriting journeys.